Welcome to Unofficial ACI Guide. This is Jody. Today we're going to look at Layer 3 connectivity in and outside of ACI with the L3out. Let's take a look.
All right, we're back to talk about Layer 3 connectivity, Layer 3 outs between ACI and the external world. So we've shown Layer 2 connectivity, how we allow devices outside of ACI to communicate with devices inside of ACI, even to Layer 2. Now we're going to talk about we need Layer 3 connectivity to route outside of ACI. And again, ACI does things a little differently, but at the end of the day, you're going to see a lot of the same commands, especially from a troubleshooting perspective. And we're just going to highlight what the routing table looks like outside of ACI looking in, and from ACI looking out towards the outside world. So Javed, why don't you kind of take us through what the setup looks like from a Layer 3 perspective?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So here in the diagram, I have two border leads, Borrow and Palmer. They're connected to Mammoth 31 and 32. So if you look at this link, you have this blue link. This is depicts our Layer 3 EIGRP relationship between us and the fabric. So we have two neighbors relationship. We receive the route from the fabric through the border leaf, and we pass it down to downstream neighbors. So let's go and look at the configuration first on a Catalyst 9K. So see how we see the neighbor relationship to the fabric. If I go to Mammoth 31, we have a show. As you can see, we have a neighbor, show LLDP neighbor. We have two neighbors between switch 1003 and 4. This is Layer 2, and this is our Layer 3 relationship. So if I show run interface 10 gig 103, we have a Layer 3 IP address, the point-to-point, the EIGRP, so show IP EIGRP neighbor. As you see, we have built a neighbor relationship with the fabric. And if I go to one of the boxes within the fabric, 1003, let's say Borrow. From his point of view, since we are going to be in a tenant product, we're going to check our VRF first.
Yeah, because all commands for routing and everything are VRF related, right?
Exactly. That's right. So show IP EIGRP neighbor, VRF product. As you can see, we have built a neighbor with the Catalyst 9K. And then let's look at the routing table, show IP route. So one of the routes which I'm advertising from the outside is let's say 10.198, which is learning from the Catalyst 9K.
Okay.
So if I go to my box, which is a Possum, he is 10.198 is directly connected up with this box to IP interface free.
Okay. And can you show us on the drawing where a possum lives in regards to the fabric?
Yes. So let's say in this cloud, so possum sitting in the cloud, and he's advertising the routes to Bradford and Otter, and we see the subnet via these two, Mammoth 31 and 32. So now if I go back to my possum, the route we're advertising from the fabric, let's say this is 10.100, 192, 168. I'm going to add it. Yeah, you see that we see the route from DC1 and DC2. So,
right.
And so
and that means, subnet, that's the subnet that ACI owns for VLAN 100, right?
Exactly. Let me show you that's correct. So if I go to my ACI and look at net 100 is L3 configuration. As you see, you're advertising the SVI, you're advertising externally, and you're associating DC1 and DC2 to this net 100 BD. Since this BD is expressed, that's why I'm associating on two parts. So
okay, that's right. This is a multi-pod environment, so you're sending out that /24 out both sides, different pods. Then
that's correct. So in order for us to receive routes or advertise routes to the outside world, we have to have a contract. So there's a concept of L3 EPG also. So we got to make sure we have a contract for that EPG, for layer 3 EPG, and also for our corresponding EPG. So net 100 EPG, this is where my endpoints are residing. We got to make sure we have a contract here. So in my case, it's a per-median, and then we have created a L3out EPG, which is a part of the L3out configuration. So we got to make sure that we have a contract associating with this EPG. So we associate permit any to this EPG. And one of the things that with the external EPG, you got to make sure is that when in our case, if I go back here, we're telling ACI that anything we receive from the outside, bring it into Fabric. But we can have the option. We have the option. We can be more granular. We can just be selective on what subnet we can bring.
And we can have multiple external EPGs, right? So you can classify. You can have a 000. You can have one for a 10 network that maybe you want to put more specific contract information. Maybe you don't want them to access everything, but it's a different network that's a little locked down outside of ACI. You can get more granular with the contract by creating different endpoint groups. As far as how do I establish EIGRP? How do I get EIGRP working? How do I tell which border leafs I want to use?
Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to try to create L3out.
Okay.
So we go L3out, create L3out. So now this is a wizard that helps you go through it. It's very easy to set up and configure. So in our case, we just call it the L3out right now.
Okay, and you have to select the VRF. Okay.
Exactly. So our VRF that we've created for this tenant called prod, and we also have a select our domain. And here we have option of BGP, EIGRP, OSPF, or we can do static routing. So, and one other thing, if you have multiple tenants and you can set up your L3out in a common tenant and share that with other tenants. That's one option, but that requires a route leaking. So, but if you want to just every tenant have their own L3out, you can have a separate physical link, or you can have a sub interface. Have the same link, but you create separate sub interface in a different VRF. Then you can create multiple different neighbors for each tenant. So click on next here. So here we have an option of just like a Catalyst 9K. You can do a router. You can do sub interface. You can do SVI or floating SVI. So in this case, I'm using a routed link, and this is one of my boxes, Palmer, let's say, Palmer 1003. Since I've already created him before, he knows his router ID. And interface, you select your interface. Let's say here, you give it the IP address here.
So this is the interface going to the Catalyst 9K in theory, right?
That's okay. And you select your MTU, you can have a jump MTU, or you can just leave it default. So let's say in our case, 50. And then you can add more switches here. If you have more than one border leaf, you can add the second border leaf.
Okay.
So then next. Now here, this I was talking about external EPG. You give it a name for the or external EPG. And here's the default behavior, which means everything, or it can be more granular. So give it the subnet here. You can select the subnet, or it can be, if you want to just advertise everything, you just say default, allow default.
Okay.
And then pretty much that's it. Click on, and then here, by the way, you select your contract.
Okay.
So, and then that's it. Once you set finish, and if the IP address matches and with the Catalyst 9K, you should be able to build a EIGRP name.
Okay.
So
very good.
Any question?
No, so I think we've seen that we've got layer 3 connectivity. We're using EIGRP. We built the configuration obviously from both pods of ACI, so we got redundancy going, and that's really it. Javed, Luis, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching the video today. If you'd like more ACI how-tos, design guides, and best practices, check us out on the web at unofficialaciguide.com or on YouTube.